This week, Sean King, today I believe, Sean King wrote a piece in the New York Daily News, which many others have covered too. And I like Sean King. I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah, I do. Yep.
But Sean King wrote a piece quoting Chris Matthews on his show, where Matthews didn't appear to suggest, but suggested that when New Jersey closes, presuming that Hillary Clinton wins New Jersey as she is expected to win New Jersey,
Yep.
that they will go ahead and call the Democratic race for president over and declare Hillary Clinton the presumptive nominee, the nominee. They'll put some check mark by her before polls have closed in California. There's no need for me to explain it. We'll go to video 2 and allow Chris Matthews to do it.
This is what I call trouble. I'm about to start here. I'm told by the experts on numbers around here at NBC and elsewhere that come June 7th, the day of the California primary, which your candidate, I totally understand, wants to get to and maybe have a chance of knocking off Hillary at that event, a big last hurrah, that at 8 o'clock that night Eastern time, the networks will be prepared, including this one, to announce that Hillary Clinton has now gotten over the top, that she will have won the nomination in numbers. It's done. What will that do to turnout? If that's 5 o'clock Pacific time, with 3 more hours to vote in California, who will be least likely to vote? Sanders people from 5 to 8 people, or Hillary? I've heard both theories.
Well,
who will hurt your candidate?
Well, I think it'll depress turnout on both sides. Whenever there's no contest, I think you get depressed turnout on both sides. But it'll be an inaccurate description of the state of the race, frankly.
Yeah, he's always like. I would go much further than Jeff Weaver just did there.
Well, if only you had a program where you were able to.
Oh, right. We're on air. Okay. So, look, the superdelegates vote during the convention. They have not voted. They were put up on the board from the day one by most of the establishment media, if not all of the establishment media. Jake Tapper claims he doesn't do it on his program. Other than that, though, all the networks seem to do it. I talked about this yesterday. The press doesn't have a liberal bias, it doesn't have a conservative bias, it has an establishment bias. So when they see all those wonderful establishment superdelegates lining up for Hillary Clinton, they're like, yes, let's count them, they count. Now, wait a minute, now those superdelegates switched their votes in 2008. So it's an act of journalism malpractice to say that those superdelegates have already voted, which is simply not true, or will always keep their vote as it is, which is also not true, right? So nonetheless, even though they've been told this 1,000 times, all the establishment press have counted it all along to make it seem that Hillary Clinton has a much, much bigger lead than she actually does, which gives her the perception of being the winner, which actually does affect voting. It's really frustrating, but some percentage of voters do get affected by that. And now they're going to say, we're declaring it and it's over. And so even before the voting in California, the largest state, is done, here's Chris Matthews saying, what are you going to do about it? We're going to declare it.
Oh, by the way, first of all, it's important to note that that's not what Chris Matthews was doing, and we have more clips here. He was literally giving Jeff Weaver this information and getting the reaction. He wasn't saying it was right or wrong. He had, as you listen to the whole interview, I thought a fairly fair interview with Jeff Weaver and Steve McMahon, a Democratic consultant. Mm-hmm. But he
did ask it as a question.
He did,
and he said it in a way where maybe he shouldn't have said it.
Right, and he was saying, maybe I shouldn't say this, and maybe this is not right. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts, I don't.
It's not on Matthews. It's on the decision itself.
Right, and it was
by the network.
It suggested, and it was the network, and Matthews was suggesting that it was going to be done by the other networks too. That there's, where they, and again, that would also make sense too. Are we going to all decide that the superdelegates put her over the top? Now, what I find hypocritical of you and the way this show handles this situation is you consistently talk about the irrelevance of the mainstream television media, that nobody young watches or pays attention. And then when they do something like this, you act like it massively influences the election. I have not found one site that I go to regularly, which is basically Huffington Post, Real Clear Politics, and the New York Times, that includes superdelegates in the total without a further search. Like, you can get them to include it, but their initial numbers are pledged delegates. And then further down, you can add the superdelegates in and get.
In Huffington Post, you have to uncheck a box to get to just pledged delegates.
I don't.
I'll show superdelegates.
You don't, right?
No, I've done it 100 times.
I did it twice today. We're looking at different sites on Huffington Post. Then I go to HuffPost Pollster. I don't know, and it's never there, ever.
Okay, I have to literally, and I've done that a dozen times, uncheck to get just pledged delegates. But I'm mainly talking about TV.
Okay, so and the New York Times certainly, which has throughout this campaign has a really good, I don't know what the Post does, but the New York Times has a really good, they're just to look exactly what happened in each state, results broken down by county, easily accessible, and that's what I've been following. So, okay, yeah, in television, I suppose they do. I don't know. I've seen it mostly. Most of my experience here has been superdelegates not included until they say, if you include superdelegates.
Wow, it's interesting what our different perceptions are.
Right,
Because
but your
almost
perception
every time on TV, and we pointed out on almost every election night. And by the way, we use New York Times on election nights because they don't do that, and they are more accurate, right? But so that is a very fair point by you. But on TV, boom, superdelegates, 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 almost every time.
Why do you care? Why do you care what the people watched by 72-year-olds are doing in any way, shape, or form?
Because 72-year-olds vote. So, and Ben, to be fair to me, and I like to be fair to me, as you know, I have pointed this out on a number of occasions. So yes, for younger people, television is irrelevant, right? How many people under the age of 35 are watching Chris Matthews? The number might be in the single digits.
Just let me interject. USA Today still runs on Mondays the ratings for all the top 10 television shows. I was talking to my oldest friend yesterday about this. I used to tear that section open on Mondays because I love the TV ratings. Shows 1 through 10 he'd never heard of. Just didn't know any of them. None.
Yeah. They've lost their relevance.
Yeah.
Some of those shows on ABC, the big hits on prime time, have lost literally 700,000 to 1 million 18 to 34-year-olds in 1 year. So it's like the ice caps. They are melting. They're melting away.
It's a great story to throw in at any time, and I don't remember when, in the late 90s, early 2000s, the Jonathan Silverman show, The Single Guy, was on NBC. It was on, I think, after Cheers or after Cosby. I think after Cheers, maybe after Seinfeld. And it ran for 2 seasons. Ernest Borgnine was on that show, and it had like 22 million viewers, and they canceled it for low ratings.
Yeah, now what they would do for 22 million viewers.
Yeah.
So, but the distinction is, yes, people over 40 still watch television, and the news that they get is enormously biased, again, towards the establishment. They tend to vote more often. So, no. The reason I rail against TV is because I know that for a big chunk of this country, unfortunately, it still makes a big difference.
Now, those superdelegates have said they're going to support Clinton.
Yeah. No, look, so here's how I would do it if I was, well, not if I was going to do it. I am going to do it. We have election night coverage every night, and we're going to do it on June 7th as well. So you say, okay, you wait, you see what the pledged delegates are, you report what the pledged delegates are at the end of the voting on that night, right, including California. And then you say, now here are the superdelegates. If the superdelegates stay with Hillary Clinton, which is exceedingly likely, that means tonight she probably went over the top, but we won't know until they vote. Now, on any other election year, I would say that distinction is about as meaningless as it gets. So there I would be with you. In this year, the person with the pledged delegate lead is under an FBI investigation. I know that you're not allowed to consider that as relevant. I'm sorry, I'm breaking the rules. I consider it relevant. So it is a very unique situation where there's 45 days between the end of the voting for all practical purposes. There's Washington, D.C. the next week.
As usual, D.C. gets dismissed,
Okay.
even on TYT.
Right. So 45 days between the end of the voting and the conventions. And yes, something incredibly dramatic can happen because we're in the middle of it.
But Cenk, first of all, it's not quite fair that she's under investigation. That's not entirely true. But okay, suppose she gets indicted. There is some
I
chance.
think it's actually 100% true, but go ahead.
No, she's not under an investigation. Her use of emails is. She's not the subject of a criminal probe. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
All right, keep going because I don't really agree with that either, but go ahead.
Suppose the networks say, so MSNBC and CNN and Fox say Hillary Clinton, when you include the superdelegates, now has enough delegates. She's crossed 2,383, and she'll be the Democratic nominee. That's what they'll say, she'll be. They won't say she is. They'll say she'll be. And then she gets indicted 22 days later. You think that because CNN and MSNBC said she's the nominee, they'll be like, oh, well, so I guess she has to be the nominee. They said it on TV. That's insane. She won't be the nominee.
But look at how they treat the investigation, right? I've never had, I don't think in my lifetime, correct me if I'm wrong, a major candidate who's likely to be the nominee under an FBI investigation in the middle of the campaign. And yet the media has been, yeah, they talked about emails and usually the most irrelevant parts of that controversy. But they'll be like, oh, FBI investigations don't count. No, they don't count. There's no way she's going to get indicted. Move on, move on. She's the winner. Move on, move on, move on, move on, right? So all of a sudden they're move on.
Your filter is blind, and it's been your worst coverage that I've sat with you on. Your filter is blind to this. That email scandal has been covered to death, and it has hurt her, and it's partly why Bernie Sanders is where he is. It's partly why she's damaged. You can make you can make a case that she deserves to be damaged by it. I'm not making a case that it should be ignored or played up or anything, but it's hurt her. There's no question it's hurt her. Our next story today is about the release of the Inspector General's report from the State Department. It hurts her. It's bad. It does not allege what would seem to me to rise to the level of an indictable crime, but I'm not a lawyer.
Am I wrong that almost everyone on TV is saying they're not making it like, oh my God, what if there's an indictment? Almost everyone assumes that there will be no indictment. And in fact, when I make a big deal out of it, the coverage we get on it is like, oh, there they go, talking about a possible indictment in the middle of an FBI investigation that 99 out of 100 times leads to an indictment.
That's not true.
Okay, now this might be the one time because she's incredibly powerful. If you were an average
Jesus
person,
Christ, your analysis is so goddamn wrong. It's really staggering. I don't know about 99 out of 100 times the FBI investigates anything. It ends with an arrest and indictment. No way that's true. You're wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. I'll bet you $1 billion.
You got a dozen FBI agents on something. They're just twiddling their thumbs. Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Right. So
we'll see what happens.
Right. So which is it? Is she so powerful that she can prevent the indictment, or is she not powerful enough that they got dozens of FBI agents on it and they're devoting serious resources to see if she gets indicted? Which one is it? Is she the victim of this powerful conspiracy that's come out against her and the FBI is investigating? Or is she so powerful that she's able to crush it? Because it's dogged her now for months and months and months. No neutral observer of this campaign would think Hillary Clinton has gotten away with an email scandal.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, there's two different things that you're addressing. Number one, in terms of this, the FBI is running an investigation. She is not so powerful that she can stop a Republican who's the head of the FBI from stopping that investigation. Remember, James Comey was number 2 under John Ashcroft. He's not a little Republican. Yes, he had a moment of principle, God bless his heart, during the Bush administration. That's why Obama put him as the head of FBI. But he is enormously Republican. Hillary Clinton can't say to a Republican head of the FBI, please stop your legitimate investigation. That is not a thing that can happen, okay? But is she powerful in terms of having people on TV say, well, no, Hillary Clinton, she's the nominee, so of course there won't be an indictment.
Do they hold their arms? Do they hold their arms open like that?
Oftentimes, yes. So Ben, I mean, then you tell me. What I keep asking the TV guys is, how do you know? Like, do you have a mole inside the FBI?
You don't. And people on TV.
What is your assumption? Your assumption is, nah, people in power don't get indicted like that, right? Maybe they're right about that assumption. I've said over and over again, they might be right. She might not get indicted at all.
Where are your clips of everybody saying this? I'm sure you'd find them, because what the problem with this show, what it's had, is that it will find the clips of people who dismiss it and ignore the clips of people who don't dismiss it.
Why isn't everybody talking about it? My God, there's a dozen FBI agents investigating her. Why is that not an enormous story?
It's a gigantic story,
But they're going to declare it for her, ignoring that story altogether.
But what does it matter if they declare it for her? It has this value of me declaring it for her. It's pointless. If she gets indicted, she won't be the nominee, regardless of whether cable channels say with superdelegates she'd go over the top. You're tying together the notion of a potential FBI indictment that people on TV, why we should expect great political analysis from, as I've said many times, I have no idea. They haven't offered it since Walter Cronkite retired, and maybe before then. That why should we wait for them and put so much credence on what they say? If she gets indicted, she will not be, I don't know. I think if she gets indicted, she will not be the Democratic nominee for president. Whether CNN said on June 7th that she's going to be with the superdelegates or not.
So stay with me, because I actually think that in some ways you're agreeing with what I'm saying. So here's why. Well, if you think she gets indicted, she's not the nominee, then shouldn't everybody on TV be saying, well, she might be the nominee, or she might be indicted, in which case she clearly won't be the nominee? But no one is saying that.
Well, first of all, there haven't been any stories suggesting that she's going to get charged with a crime, that it wouldn't be her office or that somebody else. We don't know. We don't know, but with the stories that I've read from, I'm not going to get their jobs right, but the stories that I've read from former federal investigators is that it is very unlikely to produce an indictment, and if it does, there is no punishment in the law for it, which would affect your decision to prosecute if your result of the prosecution is, but we don't have anything written into it, partly because it's an incredibly poorly written law. So based on all that, it seems unlikely to me that she will be indicted. It's not impossible. If she gets indicted, well, then I would imagine she won't be the nominee. I don't think these things are related. I think the fact that there is not, aside from congressional investigations, that there is the Inspector General's report at the State Department, which she theoretically could have quashed, I suppose, if she was all-powerful. I mean, the Inspector General's technically independent, but John Kerry and Barack Obama could have put pressure on it. They would have been breaking the law if they'd done it. But
by the way, I'm not suggesting that she's going to quash it because she's powerful. I'm actually almost saying the opposite. I don't think she gets to quash things like that. That's why I think an indictment is possible. Maybe what I'm saying is maybe these TV guys know something I don't know, that she's so powerful that they're not allowed to do that in a way that I don't understand.
I just think you can make a point of Hillary Clinton might get indicted, and if she does, she shouldn't be the nominee. And I think Bernie Sanders should stay in the race until then, because if he drops out of the race, it becomes much easier for the party to push Joe Biden in, like Hubert Humphrey, right?
And they will almost certainly try.
And they will almost certainly do that. But if you got a guy who's 300 delegates short of getting the nomination and he's still in the race, it becomes much harder to do that. And it creates a very legitimate fight. So that's different than tying it into what is a consistent theme that I just don't think bears out, that the media has this giant fix-in for Hillary Clinton. When Hillary Clinton supporters, right or wrong, can come on and make a case very easily that the media has had a fix-in for Hillary Clinton for 24 years, and they still have it in for her. And in addition to the Inspector General's report and congressional investigations, there is also a report by the intelligence agencies, not specifically the CIA, under the penumbra of all the U.S. intelligence agencies. They're investigating, in addition to the FBI. If nothing comes out of this case, it's been sufficiently investigated.
Oh, if nothing comes out of the case, it's over, right? The only guy who will continue to talk about it is Donald Trump. So, and he won't stop talking about it, and he'll allege cover-up and murders and whatever else he's going to allege.
He talked about Vince Foster today.
Yeah, of course. So no. If there's no indictment, the primary is over, and after California, likely, right, because there's a 300 pledged delegate lead. She'll have one more pledged delegates. The superdelegates are on her side. They will vote with her in the convention, and that'll be that.